所以最近接纳推上头，所以我最近接纳的，他们都比接纳的更小些。给就是有有东西。我接纳，把那接完了，把那一套嘛修一下。他这你妈呀，我想到我那个。好嘞，从这头呢，也就是欣赏多了，看这个位。Andalai Damarai Chibe Nobarai Chibe Gay Tarwa Tam Chin Chembe Wartu Jubara Chiba Tam Chi Jesu Chibe Manamka Danyambe Tam Chi Deva Den Dungar Danche Yortu Lana Mehbara Yantabara Zobe Chanchu Rinpoche Tobara Cha English, true James.
All my sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles for my path of liberation and omniscience, may they experience their be separated from suffering, and swiftly in their eyes stand in the state of ultimate loss, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All other sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly in their eyes stand in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Te je san ma je par de nga e son ge wa la go ma she par de nga e son ge wa la go de re ne son de ne ma san ta Zamje Vartu Nga Son Geva Go.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtue deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtue deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtue deeds with body, speech, and mind.
他这所有都是那种好多慢慢的活法人就看公个体什么的在未来面，在于那么一等用了是万的不到就星期六那像就门被马龙那头发感谢节吧，几月才来还可以啊。像这门被马龙然后呢你妈想着头发感谢节吧那几月才来可以讲是，他们差不多就了。真的，他那做课上题，就是Milarepa的你，在这种，就是我并不是做这样做，在强求东西，差不多很多话强求的东西，是了，他学的的，刚才说吧。
So last week we talked about Milarepa in the place called Girung, as a river by Girung, and he was staying at the Enlightenment Fortress.
我真的过去在这两年要我去投票，是真过是拿到强求中间原来的强求这边没那个强求性了，往这边强求性的那就是强求进步牛多，马上这边的那个强求说了，就是我说是他挺过什么东西的啥的。
And so then he sang a song of realization of how his practice had flourished. And so the song goes, in this solitary place, the enlightenment fortress, I, Milarepa, am accomplishing awakening. I am a master of bodhicitta and have sustained the practice of enlightened heart. Having quickly attained a great enlightenment, may I unite all these beings who have been my mother together with supreme awakening.
真的，这种呢，土咱们装备的香港装备用大些辛苦呢，开怎么些，不呢，那在怎么让单位새로운说那呢，让我的长完一边的那长的了呢，他是长完一边的些呢的，突然间没那些些呢，的去切完音些呢，就去现在用大去每切完音些边，他把切完音，就是每来切趟突然了，说吧，多么过吧些有，因那样进步完了，我才切突然么过，俺的那人说呢，他把人过的说，我真的没在去怎么的实在机。 我怎么的是，你那看到啊？要不看到啊？
是。
我到怎么的设计呢？真的，他的这种那些的这长毛的，土老那这铺过是种的修的是呢，就是么的，像每次种是那不他妈的那么是，他妈的那么种的是修的是我这每天看到是那，像怎么的吧，我查起是。 我这土老国家没事，我这咱们国是不的是。
And then a few days later, a benefactor came and offered Milarepa a little bit of tsampa, and he wanted to offer him some clothing. He said that your clothing are so thin. It is so cold here. I want to offer you some clothing. And then Milarepa asked for his name, and he responded that his name is Lapa. And Milarepa said, that's an excellent name, and I will accept your tsampa offering, but I have no need for your fur jacket.
我真的在看个这种区别中间成果的，这种区别中间的，那些区别切中强，来自去那说起，这个多边那玩意儿。 去哪穷？就是你们对面些说啥？人那个头地下去，人家东西些说啥？人家他家都想起，人家光去哪穷？也是吃我没通，人家看着他们这通，人家下边那玩穷，这个人想将来出出去，人家都没得中吧？人家他家都想起，人家。 朝见那晚去那下，这块一些朝水的，各部给去来了去，让他单位娘们去，让他们自己在那去，俺那就是没也生给，大晚上不有日去，光把上班接的人家，娘们看看动手去，用大眼，用天这个差不多人，那就是没也叫他强求，甚至在上头，特别也没这样子，我是蛮重拿了呢，现在这个用出来，俺那就是没也过跑呢，见他们这边打票去，做他们这边，得不着去，从去年看了去，让他从这查了呢，这个从年找不着人，俺那就是没也。 坦白人，俺那没他这怕人，俺那闹嘛东西，俺那对嘛抗争，俺那人民研究人，俺那抗争点民，俺那谁说对么事，俺那苦民接不着去，俺那农民弄不起，他呢，俺那其实三千米，俺那的都的那米，俺那就把穷家人，俺那娘把西起，俺那江米国民，国别有去，找不过呢，没俺了，没去了娘们干脆有，用大。 我觉得老了去，那就是看中对马去，土上些位，土上上些给我着，经常去把偷拉的，现在在那面，天就得去，天就得去，弄球的，起码他会先看，现在球了就把么，天天先弄着把小是啥，这趟他就准备了，这趟他在团队中在参过的。 这趟他在在那么多这种区别，去那区别重建是他这种区别重建的。 那批在咱出完了，我说那批区别其中讲是不能别想的吧？ 我这不让别想呢，这咱抢不上去，常常呢，咱去那说咱这些话，我这常常多别那么小心都是，我这多别那么小别那口了，如你们东西，但常常他老忙着家，这如你们现在在几度开始穷了，如你们呀，在老忙接不对，咱们这用个这，那群众，咱们这么开都不这，现在用这，咱们这，俺们我这说3万年那更好家呢，我这如你们东西，如你们东西是啥？我真的人家搞错地下去，人家给他在就那样着去呢。这搞错地下是就那样多就那样种，有人地位真多地下是地下多了哇，我多就那样种，他在就那样才是好事。人家当年是好事，但常常当半年去，这3万才是当年去他们才好事。人家他不晓得相信，常常都入去的，这是多好事。我他都入去呢，他是大好事。我但同样呢，在哪里的？可以呢，他在哪里的？可以呢，在常常呢，别强调些这个空休是常常都没这种把休息常常在参加在做相机，他就去休息。我真在街上没来这帮啊，康江忙着，他说俺们俩钱多年，因是天都，俺他国家没都是，这国家没都去哪他的他就普亚怎么都有吧？他说出街去是，这起码就让要不用呀汤，就让。现在的起用呀，起码搭配健康人家特别好，毛囊听着加个原因是，我在听着容易是吧
？So then Milarepa sang this song of realization to Lapa, and to summarize the meaning of the song, so he begins with in the city of confusion of the 6 types of beings. So he says first, my consciousness roamed like a confused child, and had myriads of deluded karmic projections. So the city of delusion of the 6 kinds of beings, the consciousness, the confused consciousness is like a confused child. And so to this consciousness, sometimes he said, I had the delusion of hunger, and with equal taste, I begged for food. So with equal taste, begging for food also means that sometimes when he begged for food, sometimes people would insult him or challenge him, and no matter what he faced while begging for food, he would practice equal taste no matter what arose. So that is a kind of applying the practice of equal taste to whatever appears. And then sometimes I took on a commitment of hardship, so but also that is related to the practice of Julen, of taking the essence. So and he practiced extracting the vital essences of various objects, like rocks and air and so on. And sometimes it was emptiness that I ate. Sometimes I ate bad food and just endured it. And so then he continued the same, as a similar song regarding his thirst, how he quenched his thirst, and then how he clothed himself and the delusion of cold arose. So he said that sometimes I had the delusion of cold and I adorned myself with a single cloth. And sometimes the blissful heat of Chandali, of Pumo, blazed. And sometimes it was no good and I just endured it. And so then the song continues on, and toward the end, Milarepa then says, I am just a yogin who does all kinds of strange things. And however, you, the benefactor, have been very generous to me. So I pray that in a future life we will meet again in a Pure Land.
真的，那这种课特别重的，基础上没了一般一般都这个错的你们那操作起来的有人出去打个招吧，学习说实话的，其他初到没了这把事，天啥的是，我其他的挺只学的是，那俺们那俺做没见到做在做那么做下去的，你这学的是听到俺去跟是的学的是，真的强调这种学人。 소자 주포 한발 풀로 서와티 다들 효디세 다 창첩 종들 효디세 나스 주포 한발 지레스.
So then after having sang the song, then the benefactor gave rise to faith, Milarepa, and said, so you are the Siddha Milarepa. And just to know this much about you is enough. And how, so meaning that he, even though he doesn't need, has no need for all his offerings, in order for me, an ordinary being, to accumulate merit, please accept the provisions. I shall provide you for as long as you stay here at the Enlightenment Fortress. So then for as long as Milarepa stayed there, Lapa offered him all his provisions.
Tene jisu tugdam la shinto po che wara chung ne to ni beng la ma la nyama ga je chung na re ne la thong ro wa chung we tugdam ma wa chung am shi be je tu ke ne la yin gu ba ta ge jo yang phe ba chung hong nam ara na re te ga yong do ne de ga mo la to ba she dan shi rang je tugdam ji su ke na ma xue xu beng guo de zong su wa tene ta zra shou de se ji su be nyam len to ya bo chung te chung de lu tene to ni bo chung ne ter tre an ze lo ma ka shen je kan de chung song se 어때 중도 너무 서 단내는 치 통로다 야보다 제가 나기 냠내서 야보 중에서 휴레스 제주기랑 라바나 이들 종송스 달라브레스 류 한내는 또 바제다 아 제가 냠내 치 세송로 치스 어때 지도 거송레스.
And so then as a result, Milarepa's practice improved greatly, and so he had also great experiences of joy. And so then at some point, again, some disciples from Rama then came to meet him, and they asked him, have you had a good stay at this place, and has your practice gone well? And Milarepa replied, I enjoyed this place, and my practice has flourished. And then the disciples asked Milarepa, so therefore, please sing a praise of this joyful place and tell us about your practice here.
장주 종제 베네데 편을 라체 강간토 단에 용다 대대마 잠네 다르카리 여러반다 두난 고도 나세봉 마 형니 생 치라장 지된 이용 베마 강강도 원된베 다디제 증어 된가 효용어 주자진 바 조네다 정신지베 예가 당 제베 전소 개념就是这上是大把人刚入业个开始他进头先这边中心这这样子那做起我将样皮是因为啦那刚些头都些啦这么在大中间这我那么个当领我给年着几天是别苦不呢上新的这实践的在这边呢就是我公司人前招新的那么别他别人都用没去都用没有都用没有去公司的那么这的没那么就嘛的嘛托什前人结果那个东巴谁说因为没别什么太过那么叫那叫那这样吃的一嘛他们说可能就没那些我吃的气死他的那了别他这来看着人吧帮下有吧假期忙不有吧没错忙不有吧他这这边来说他说忙不行呢这么这些的真的吞着的他说这秋子在他说忙不有吧他那边没些在用大他说太把钱不有吧听着都是那杂钱不的我听绿色公娘那开始是那我没差别人这是那我没差别人这是的那我看通那上没差可能赢吧这边这头都是那我上嘛就那没差的话下期位那没差的这几位那没差的话真通的我听的没差别人这都用每个去了就每个去了讲是都用但都用啊他每个去是呢他每个是呢他全部他就去了哇去着我在通个哇我这每个来不给我这日大是啥开始啥干部他就有了啥干部他就有他他就在去了咱们日大是送我把他送着了哇我这每个来不给他每个去了我们每个那一他让一钞票嘛的都用是上来让一嘛着了可多大了我们去了现在嘛那么就嘛大是我这现在他们那么就嘛的我们那么就嘛那些人俺让现在他这们那么那些人他们那么这他的们那么地那们那么就你现听着那抢着个话他那就上们那么在说这可是差不多送的可我有一般的工作 tena yin ran so ta ne lo ma to du ti nga so ma sen de ma lam da bre si ju ma de ma to sim jian yin ge ma to ba la yin ge gong so wa de ma to de sim ya ta ma yin ge我们说是南卡东北谁是那南卡东北谁是这娘们气口中说的我们讲的东北你娘们气这英文没别咱们天公说这东北你娘们才气呢马英吧气呢这咱们天公说那做娘们这样吃是我这那做娘们那做咱们这真恰容的恰容的一万看中可别就没一些那我吃起是那一万看中可别没一些那我吃起总被空那提前老送让美国人是
So then Milarepa sang a song of praise to the Enlightenment Fortress, this place, and praising the place for there's a beautiful scenery. There's a snow mountain, and there are grass fields and many flowers and meadows, and there are many birds and other creatures buzzing around. There's many animals. And the people of this place have a very special devotion to the Dharma. It's a very precious, holy place, a place conducive for practice. And so then the song continues with, at this place, I remember appearances are examples of impermanence. And because, for example, the appearance of a bird or another animal that passes by are all impermanent by nature. And so then he said, I see sense pleasures to be like a mirage. So referring to the 5 sense objects. And the mirage is that, sometimes when it's very dry and animals are looking for water, then in the distance, they see the mirage of water due to the heat, but actually when they get there is no real water. So basically, everything is an illusion and doesn't inherently exist. These sense pleasures do not inherently by nature exist. And so then he said, this life is like a dream or like an illusion. And our dreams are like a dream within a dream. But then we wake up, but we are actually still in the dream. Like sometimes, for example, we have very intense dreams that seem very real. And that this is actually how the life is for someone who has not realized the nature of the mind. His entire life is just like this very real dream, which is really illusory by nature. And so then he says, and cultivate compassion for those who don't realize this. I eat the food of empty space. So that means that he practices meditation. He practices meditation on emptiness and cultivate the food of non-distraction. In the myriad of experiences, anything arises. Emma, the phenomena of samsara's 3 realms not existing, they appear. How wondrous it is.
真的，咱讲片南卡中国的，谁咱妈的chapter 中讲片南卡中国人多。真的，那么个人实际上没来人，把这些让嘛呢讲片南卡中穷的小辈子，那么些了只有去，人工了上把些，只有人工了上把些，小妹去跑，少妹去大约，拖呢拉达吧，就只有给么小人，小送的可那里，就这个送的没这多呗，没这那个主要是呢。 现在我咱这在看清楚点从可只有空的去了，小马现在有啥的往下来提起，在跑不了起，但上面da już上马是啥的哇，我这提起da już ski的去了，但拉在现在现在接触给毛学的，你经常在现场去给咱们经常没人呢，他们从他们当中进行是拉松是。
So then we come to the next chapter that is called Gyangben Sky Fortress. So the next Milarepa went from Rangma to the Gyangben Sky Fortress. And so while he was staying there, a demon, a spirit appeared to him in the form of a monkey riding on a rabbit. And he wore armor made of barley husks and held a bow and arrow made of straw. So when Milarepa saw the monkey, he couldn't help but laugh. But then the monkey said to him, I've come to frighten you, but if you're not frightened, then I will go.
真的几处给这种的是，几处给我那往三些是，我的那往三些后是那往三米那三东把你的，我这混这也得东把你的，但是这也得东把你的，那往三是差就是，什么秋裤我穿，什么秋裤现在什么秋裤都东把你的，秋裤我穿呗，这秋就春秋几点样子，那叫人家也给么呢？那叫那春秋看的点那个给么学的没看呀么都容易是。
So then Milarepa said to the ghost, to the spirit, I am resolved that appearances are mind. So mind is empty, and therefore also the demon is empty. I have seen that mind itself is Dharmakaya. So Dharmakaya also here means emptiness. So spirit, whatever magic you may show, it just makes this yogi laugh.
真的些种是协调着把开朗家的也说出趟结果因是，我在出趟才设计这有啥的结论的，可能这样的我就因啥的话题，那国际嘛协调起因是这把也说是。
So then it turned out that this spirit was the Drotang king, was also an area Drotang, and so then after having sang the song, and the spirit committed himself to serve Milarepa, and then he disappeared.
现在出趟见到呢，继续在把权威那个原台阶的区别呢，我真的出趟设计上原大可以用到是最后的，真的那原台看到是样子，那提原台过哈，过这浪多。
And so then later, some benefactors of Drotang also came to meet Milarepa, and they asked, what are the good qualities of this place? So Milarepa then sang this song of realization in reply.
你的吉拉玛那么做完的，你的原天嘛些呢？你的原天嘛些呢？明年江边南卡中是破张的顶的楼梯，木破这我那张强光不去，江那长嘛南卡顶年对那帮人没拖着那。接下来给东罗那么加这个国破顶，看那张些新闻吧，具体啊，流年的些他们为这种这趟这不样子种就个。那么就是他在空么了样呢？在小西嘛，年把它就推荐给的，你们见着你的用天上面下，你们看路浪巴耶，但我看路浪巴耶，在做泡沫用它呢，而且这种了，俺心想的地方帮他给我做，我才知道的那次了，用天忙不到，是用天开始那他在。等于真把的我了去的，他长马人有来，他忙不掐几件，掐趟几件是大了算，忙不过来，让他没些忙不见到，是说给年不进去做学的，我原天进去都是，我今天在街上去呢，在街上说，俺的也是路程上，是路程上就真的可是俺到我们那去图比那就是，这去呢，的块就是帮的给我做过的种多。
And so then Milarepa sang this song about the many qualities, the many good qualities of this place. So he said this place has many qualities, like above you have the clouds, so the clouds are gathering above, and beneath are the fresh and the clear waterfalls, and you have the birds and the vultures and various animals roaming around in the mountain. So he sang about the scenery, and at the end of the song then says, so since all of you benefactors have gathered here, if you wish to follow after me and do as I have, then you should abandon negativity and practice virtue.
些总为给那那个把些都把那的记住了，俺咱那些的个沟通，那从前打工就别给你们钱的吧，那么学别人过，他们是说那俺把是都是，提打工就说你们拿罗去是学的是的，等过的种的是。
And then among the people gathered there was a tantrika, and he requested teaching on view, meditation, and conduct. So then in response, Milarepa sang this song.
那面前了，现在多东西多把它清洁了，用它特别巧呢，对俺他也他们也别些呢。我他那面前了，现在修，但马拉人吧，就当记住马拉人吧，马路了，特别清白有的。我听这那面前了，现在修课，那嘛的特别清白，前了现在修课的。 我这对下面的show呢，我这呢东西多吧，星期六，是那面其他这类的东西多吧，但星期六，原大特别强烈是，他原大是了，可能说特别强烈就是，他一旦你被录下来，是啦，一旦是说你要录下来，是，那他中他因为什么，这种单位都对，那嘛东吧，也没嘞，那从也没吧，现在的话，这说他单位那都对，是大半多对吧？那嘛现在当个就怕看通红呀，对吧？这那嘛这场一嘛着东吧的。我在也没把这当中也没把是，我在这边都对应是，我这期这当当位面前先别前一种我来带路边那路吧，我这对先把球先那路吧是，那我提起这当通呢用嘛的听，那我当初在桥当这里先下球那桥当没说这个真清楚给这种，我这人东北人吧现在这情都也有么了吧，在当位面让他中上的是，这边都对应是。谁他妈错，蛮严重的，从公边都对应。谁话现在在他先这位可能人们去，没错现在，他这样子那错忙不明白，他这个人们可能下头下头没错些，蛮严是我的蛮这样开清不的，全把的蛮严我过去的，人说那真的光家头个嘛吧，我听对提开总的，的从公边都对应，你从不在公边都对的是。我在墙面前面，他就说插画面吧，先把面吧。我听他就他说，那什么这边都等于是，我到就把其实插画的先把他的口中这口嘛的，我在你们俩在说那在这边多的原因是，人面头面出面什么的什么这边都等于热画面吧，头发面吧，但出画面吧，我这种在这边很多的原因是。我没过面，说面中，但是他们这都等于我靠面吧，我靠面吧。所以真的在说不中，在基础贴吧先不用的嘛，他就明白，把长跑长下的几多年，这他们这更多的原因是，我这些总说是。
So then Milarepa then sang this song in reply, and may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. So Milarepa had a great devotion to his Guru Marpa, and when great devotion, great faith arises, then the blessings can enter the mind. And then grant you blessings that I realize emptiness. In response to these benefactors, with great faith, I will sing a song to please the Yidam deities. Appearance, emptiness, their inseparability, these three things summarize the view. Appearance refers to all the things that we see, and emptiness is that while we see them, they lack any true existence. So appearance and emptiness are indivisible. Tilopa said to Naropa, son, it is not the appearances that bind you, but it is your clinging to the appearances that bind you. Therefore, Naropa cuts through clinging in your mind. Because when we encounter an appearance and it causes us to develop a thought of attachment, aversion, or ignorance, then the mind is in bondage. Or someone who has realized emptiness can no longer be held in such bondage. So then clarity, non-conception, and non-distraction, these three things summarize meditation. So when we meditate, we must practice within a state of clarity, a clear mind. Then non-conception means we shouldn't follow the thoughts that arise in the mind. So one is able to place oneself in a state of clarity without following the thoughts. And then non-distraction, that's very important, because if we are distracted, we can't meditate. So non-distraction is really the key point to meditation. Then non-attachment, non-clinging, continuity, these three things summarize conduct. So when we engage in conduct, as in our day-to-day activities, we must not allow the mind then to become controlled by clinging attachment. Then no hope, no fear, no confusion. These three things summarize fruition. And then no deception, no hypocrisy, no pretense. These three things summarize samaya. So no deception, no hypocrisy, not pretense, means that one should not act, for example, as though one had much faith. That was not the reality. But there's the summary, the essence of Samaya is to be honest, straightforward.
Then he zombie conam teaching lots of Changas on the Yama Mambo Jet, Tenam Nitsugun come Lancheso de Lassam, Narsenam Jitsuko come Lancheso de Lassam, New typical and Gordon Zones. So then the console Sebajanet losses and Nimaka on the Loma Mambo cheated them those. That's a sort that not they were in BS lapsons. What that is they were the Chinese and then go on the land is.
So then they all gave rise to faith and they left. And then a few days later, then they returned with many students to meet Milarepa. And those who had been there earlier asked Milarepa if he was doing well. And he responded he was doing very well. And so then in response, he sang this song.
Lamika Lamatambi Kablan do Yamne Nimi be nothing the Milarepa Gum Lo the Zami Bejo, Zami be and Rolo the Natami be Juludi, Nivami be and Duro de Topami be Dingzi de Tomami be the Mo de Kumbami be Dorio de Zorami be Sonam de Yumami be Benedi, Tolu J and Jesoye, Tapini J, Tapiji, Tiba de Jeto Yaman, Nondomi Barachan, Barade. La brought me Majidi, Songa, Churso, Ozomi, be Dawadi, Junchi, be Gombadi, Yambami, be Jobadi, Redomi, be Dribudi, Seso Simji, Chesoin, Juba, see no, Jimitomi, or see no, the Chanam da, Yang Su, the Gamin Charago, Yang Su, the Shindu Devi, Yanchu, Yamulu, Lambai, Dagum, Debai, Lina Chancho, Drupana, Yamsunana, Zaranzo. What Lu Nasa Meleda. That Lu Nasa Mebata. What is Bechan Domo Kitura Honda, what is Lupo in Nasami Lupo de. What Domo Kitura on Lupo Deva in Bano. What an eye, that's a as a long to draw me by day. What you know, you can get a labro me, but Machi, Salerba, Machi today. What is that architecture is? Then Mozomi Batavades, Mozomi Batavadi. That most into Marathi Mozomi Batavades. Or Junchi may be bombades, that Junchi me by Yamne, Chamber Junchi, me but Yamne cheat, those the wings. Yamba may be Jobad, Yamro Yakumedata, Yamna. What a job they were is. Redo me by Drivides, what I read me by Drivides. What that is what they were in, and what doing that is what they were in. What the Yaman Yamnachi, Yamnachi, that's only.
Then Milarepa sang this song in response, going through his body, speech, and mind of how well he feels in his body. And so he said, my Chandali free of chill feels good. Or also in other words, he's wearing the clothes of Dumo, the clothes of Chandali. And then the same for the speech. Speech feels good because my mindfulness free of prana or wind coming or going feels good. So that is because when with mindfulness that is sustained as a mindful presence that is sustained continuously, therefore my winds feel good, I feel good. This is the state of my speech. Also my silence without friends to talk feels good. And then my view that is free of identification feels good. So then my meditation that's always flowing feels good. Meditation that's always flowing is also this ongoing state of mindfulness. My conduct that never degenerates feels good. My fruition without hope and fear feels good. This is the state of my mind. And then in the end, Milarepa tells them, in the future, henceforth, you who strive toward awakening, whenever you practice, do it like this, or practice like me.
Milarepa Sam Dorba the Chongre, Sam Nero Dorba the Chongres, Zongres.
So then, having sung this song, then the disciples and said, so these ways that the guru's body, speech, and mind feel so good is marvelous. So where is it that all of this arose from? And Milarepa replied, this has all arisen from the realization of mind.
Ni namla deva tezaba majung rang majungs or ngazola deva tendu majungs then tendang cha zam yang yong treba tendu zai cha he zam se chona ratio tendu reta this is sam doya tab nyamna sia chu le la os ko la le la os na ro chis shure so watina to jitu mere ke ang gor sam do ju mis gor son res.
And so then the disciples then again said that, but we have not experienced this kind of bliss, the kind of bliss that you experience, but we hope to get at least a taste of it. So therefore, please teach us a dharma that is easy to understand about the way to realize the nature of the mind and bring about such bliss. And then in response, Milarepa sang this song, The 12 Points of Mind.
The Lama Tambe Shan, Yonda Simni, Dondonas, Yamnantina, Dedanzos, or that Lama Tambe, Marva and the Fura Lama Tamba, Ten Duty, Yonda Chana Sam Dondona, Yamnan Deda Cheese, Dondo.
So then Milarepa sang the song, A Bow at the Feet of the Noble Guru. So the Noble Guru is Marpa. And then you benefactors who wish to realize mind's nature, when you practice, do it like this.
Then the Dakaris and not tea on Kate on Zun on the some Samji, Zohin Las. So na Diana, Jona this, Sohin Zina, Telanzo, son daughter, Teba, the Kepa, Zumpas, and the Diva Mongoli, or the Pik Mongoli, what they not Zumpas, the some Samji Zohin, or these on the Sam Sohin is. So na says, start changing was Hina Sal Zone. What Dembo is Jonas, and jokes and nothing Yamnagan, the Chinata Devores, so Hinzina de Landos, that's what Hinchina the Zigores on the.
So then he continued, faith, knowledge, discipline, these are the life rod of the mind. So faith, knowledge, and discipline. Discipline here means a discipline of not engaging in negative action. And so these are the life rod, like a life kind of like vein of the mind. If you plant this rod stably like a tree, you will experience bliss, or you will develop a stable state of practice.
Then that tell me, she means a chapa the Himba, you put a Jiwan or Mommy, and that my Heba member. Yamnet to hear go shota. Or my Heba member, the some Samji Kocha is, or then the some Samji Kocha is, Chona Yana Songhazas, or then Chona Kondina Yabores, Be Messi and Sonja Jahonatene, Be Messi Kocham the Zembores, Sawo, Kocha Zona Telanzos.
And then so these are quite similar, but then no attachment, no clinging, no ignorance. These are the armor of the mind. So no attachment, no clinging, no ignorance here also means that one actually needs to know how to practice. So it refers to the ignorance with regard to the practice. These are the armor of the mind, light to wear and weapon proof. If you wear armor, then wear it like this.
Then that Gom Tanson Duxan, the some Samji double in Jona, Jola, Chona, Tadapos, and some those. What I go by Yamnachi, that's only to catch him around Zondu Chico. Zondu Jibu Ricoma, Duruchico, Duxan, and Duruchico. The Gale Carchona, Tanu Duxan, Sosan Goher, Sosan Sobanon, Gale Carchona. What is Duxan Zoms? The some Samji double, what is Sam Gidana, Jona Jola. That ya tarwe namda zendoya and jogo jog to beris, Chona tars, Corvalia, Chondrogen, Tando beris, that Hondo Zendrogina, Taponzona, Tesomzo, Telanzo, Taponzon, Techigores.
So then continued meditation, diligence, and endurance in hardship. These are the stallion of the mind. So meditation and diligence. So diligence is extremely important in our practice of meditation. But diligence alone is also not enough. We also need to have endurance in the face of hardships. And so when we encounter difficulties, no matter what kind of hardship we encounter, it's necessary to also develop some patient forbearance and go through these difficulties in practice. So these are the stallion of the mind. When it runs, you will quickly escape to liberation. So if you ride this horse, this stallion, you will quickly become liberated from samsara. So when you get on the stallion, do it like this.
Oh, then that are say around the some driven, some driven in Damnam and Juna so driven in that some simple number junior, then Jolola Sharwala, Chuyanda, Tebe, Chalan, Samalo, and you can read water.
And so then the remaining verses are basically have the same meaning. So I will read them. Self-aware, self-luminous, self-blissful. These are the fruition of the mind. It is planted, then ripens, and is nutritious to eat. When you attain the fruition, attain it like this. These 12 points of the mind dawned within the mind of this yogi. You faithful benefactors should practice them.
Oh, then Chiezone Jitsula Tebachon, Chishapo, Posum Soba drop by Chortos, what they control Tebajene, the Jitsula Shapo Yabo drop is Yella.
And so then after this, the disciples gave rise to Milarepa and then later served Milarepa.
Oh, then Jitsu Yurmo Kankara, Tochi, so Jampan Namka Zonjpol. Oh, that Jitsu Milarepa, Yurmo Kandroyat, some of the honors, Yurmo Kantamela, Marweki, Yurmo Kana Gom Sons and Nebalik Sacharindo. What are Gom Sons on Marweki Long Dan, what is natural? Androya. What in some of the quarries.
So then after that, Milarepa decided to go to the Yolmo snowy range. And this was actually it's a place in Nepal, and it is a place that was a prophecy, so foretold by Marpa, and also a place where Marpa instructed Milarepa to go and meditate. So then it occurred in his mind that now is the time to go to Yolmo snowy range.
Oh, then the Namon Guru and Yurmo Karigor and Namon Guru and Angel want to Milarepa in Lamega, Drupcher. Junk Namka Zone, Yurmo Canada, Singa Link, Daxe, Dahu Singe, Zonto Show, Yurmo Sheda, Mo Tambo, Shive Gonen, Zibe, so then Gahin, Drobak, and Onion Corpusum, Sobajo, then Ejitu to Lamperetu, Moyuji, Pendation, Ma, Nazam Choshiro, Home, and Derjicha, what on boy, Lum Sheba, Bovella Melon, them Nama, Chula, some shoe, and to near. Dobala Tuntume to Gondes. Or the Nejitsu Milarepa, Yurmo, Lamega Yachi to Yurmo Kanat, Paris, the whole Singazon set I showed you. Nay, Yurmo Shidat, Shivek Gons or Kalan, Chateau Kalan is. What a drop, the Jitsu Yamnachi, they do that. Moyus and Nabali Mesa, Tender Nasa say, Shamba Nasa say, Jitula Choshion, Tanera Shanatso Madois. What can you do? They can't do those. Yamna can't do songs. What can you shoot is they just go on zone is.
So then Mr. Milarepa then went according to Marpa's instruction. He went from Yangben to the almost snowy range, and so at one time a local protector goddess of Yolmo appeared, but manifesting in peaceful form, and then also the 5 nuns from Manuel came and they requested teachings from Milarepa, and they said, "Isn't this a bit of a scary place? So how do you find it? How is your practice going here?" And so then Milarepa sang this song in response.
Oh, then Lama Tambe Shalandu, Razonam Sabi, Tanji, Laminung Tiani, Sule, Murishin, Devane, Parame, Tojavane, Yohikara Chibi, Driba, Zemo, Zivala, Chekina, Todobala, Umalan, Porova, Nizemi Benjarijo, Yergun maybe Don Charapa, don't you maybe Namun Tetavi, and Barande, your Milarepa, Semponi Dobi, or say and Charaga, Semponi Gombe, or say the Chagomana TV, and Tomamina TV, the Yangamina, Jesu, the Nasotuna, Hindu, the Jichamina, the Yomoje, the Dukupchina, Hinasamina, TV, the one day was Namshu to Koroshi, the Mount Jojo Karata, he, TV, the Nodulu Gundu, Table, Diana, just also Jorona, TV, the Simon to Bobby, into the Rahuran, Sharashin, the Nasokana TV, Nyamde, Hinji, B, and Jorona, Tidian, Jebara, Jebe Chong Chen Zos. Or that just on the Jesu Milarepa, that native in Mata, he didn't worry, native Mata negative, so into Lobata. Saying the child, the mambo that you're so on to Devo in. What did you mean? That Devo in the that David looking out and I wonder what it is.
So then he sang this song in response, and it's quite similar actually than the previous song in meaning. So he gives praise to the place of the mountains with the beautiful flowers and the trees and so on. And then he sings a song of how good he feels at this place.
Xie ne wang tang dam ga ne gom de jo be nyang to sang bo ji be ji tu to ne xie dam de si yang de wo zong so wa de ne kong zo la dam ga na re sa wang dam ga so na de ne se na sa du de nyam to gom ji du de nyam to ya bo ji re se de se ji tu ki ta xie dam de gon lo zong re.
And then after that, then he conferred empowerments and instructions, and then had this assembly meditate, and they all developed an excellent experience and realization. And the Milarepa was very pleased about that and sang a song in response.
Lama San Jie Chu Jie Gu Mano Tabe Lam Nan Den Tu Jin Chen Len Zhou Bei Den Zhi Mi Zu Ji Jin Xin De Yu Chun Zi Nyam Len Ken Tam Chu Che Lo Ma Na Yang Sam Lang Gong Ba Gar Ba San Se Wa Ta Jie Tang Go Li Ta Ji Zu Lama Ta Ji Wo Zhou Lu Gong Se Te Re Da Jie Tang Tam Chu Chi Ya Mang Bo Yo Re Si Lo Mang Bo Yo Re Sin Na Ti Nan Sam Lang Tu Gong Na Gar Ba San Bo Re Sam Lang Sen Na Da Zai A Zu Nian Ju Ta Ma Ra Wa Ta Zu Gong To Na Gar Ba San Bo Re Nam Sam Ma Ta Zu Gong Na Gar Ba San Bo Re Chi Seje Sanje Drupdu Ne Sede Rando Ma Xie Oda Seje Sanje Drupya Nyamna Chi Zai So Hiu Yin Zam Te Rando Chimbo Chi Jo Mas Rando Ba Chimbo Chena Gejor Na Cho Ju So Te Ran Sibu Zai Yin Zang Aja Je Ne Te Gejor Te Kangju Man Ju Cha Ro Gres Jina Ngen Ro Ne Song O Ten Ru Jina De Ngen Ro Dong Ro Gres Lame Xiap To Chi Du Su Nge Ji Kong Yu Ma Jie Jena Bong Lo Ren Kang Ju Oda Lama Zai Xiap To La Nyamna Chi Yu Na Ti Gang Lo Ta Nge Hiu Chi Xia Wo Zo Ten Ru Chi Ya Yo Ma Res Lama Xiap Si Ma Bo Hu Yin Si Nge Zai Nge Zai Te Jina Bong Lo Ni Bo Wang Zai Pa To Ge Chia Du Kya Ten Ru La Bia An Chung Ge Res Chung De Zan Bei Tong Ma Ro So Oda Ne Chung De Na De Zan Bei Tong Ro Ge Ma Res Te Shu Su Zam Dong Te Ro Ge Ma Res Oda Ne Oda Han Te Ra Ba Lo Na
So he said then Guru Buddha Dharmakaya, unerring teacher of the path of liberation, your compassionate activity is the glory of beings. You sit never separate from me as a crown, as an ornament of my crown. You practitioners of Dharma who are residing here, though there are many ways to practice genuine Dharma, you are so fortunate to be practicing the profound path. So the profound path of the like the swift path of the oral transmission and so forth. Then when accomplishing Buddhahood in a single life, do not let your desires in this life be great. If you do, you will engage in virtue and negativity. If that happens, you will fall to the lower realms. So for example, if you practice virtue, if you practice the Dharma, but then you become all puffed up with pride about your practice, then actually it can become the cause of falling into the lower realms. And then when offering service to the Guru, don't complain about all you have done to help. If you do, there will be resentment for both master and student. If that happens, you will not accomplish your wishes. So when you give service to the guru, also do not take pride in it, thinking that I served so hard and I served so much, and don't complain about all the many things that you had to do, because as a result, that will only lead to resentment in others' mind and your own mind. And as a result of that, you will not accomplish all of your wishes.
真参赛东巴总就是没拿冲是蛮年节年的没落年巴节节呢参赛东巴确实，我从多他在参赛东巴这总对这，可是是冲北当这说年新人多要马来西亚呢，在没有看通常情况的事情的东巴参赛是小那个的事，我这期。
Mishia yomaris, chesong, not dawat is chesong.
真的，他们这东巴这是中队，我真的没拿冲些，没拿啥冲些冲班这么天那些大年要马的是，你那没落面巴是没看见通常情况的是，这期呢真的东巴他们这是小那个的是，我这期投票那么年期就是他人家家的没接噻，他投票那么年期就是他人家家的没接，我大概应该别家也不修，先修中俺家多，俺家修俺开发意思来的，这就有了啊。 我在我家前呢，同样没落当，我在去我家前呢，你们俩刚做头个嘛的，在你们同样都要拉红个的是，然后那个就是咱把抽，是个我在然后那个就是咱把他抽着个的，是个你们俩去下子，但咱们能抽着，你们俩刚 laptop 个嘛的是。
Then, when you're keeping the Samaya vows, don't sleep in the cities of ordinary people. If you do, you will be influenced by negative examples. If this happens, your Samaya vows will be broken. So it is so. In order to keep one's Samaya vows, it is best not to stay too long and to listen to. Influenced here means to listen to or follow the kind of what people say, what people want you to do. And so then you'll be influenced by negative example, like looking down on others and so forth. And then when you are engaging in studying, do not have great pride in conventional knowledge. If you do, the 5 poisons embers will flare. If they flare, your intention toward virtuous activity will be disturbed. There are some people who know the scriptures really well and that they take pride in that and think that they are great scholars. But if pride arises and if it remains in the mind, then one will not be able to actually engage in real practice because one will become disturbed by the 5 afflictive emotions.
真的是从老超长时间做就是前就去忙的什么别叫人他给我去，他就给我去是啊。我他超的说你们做的去做你们做的在前去忙不清的也会有嘛的是。所以现在是针对去对你们俩去呀，他们也有做的是。这人呢，这你们俩去呀，他给我去做的是。他们那么研究，我们就是针对其他嘛，其他让就这种当，然后呢，从别求的是。我他们那么研究，他说你们俩去用的，但针对其他，但这都一样的嘛。在这都，可是咱老许多，他说这都不多，咱多，我这种这都一样，他其他去叫嘛的是。现在让就这种当时，我现在让就这当，为啥是？但你们俩去投票嘛？但这说让就你们这是让对的，你们俩去投票嘛的，这让就这种当时，让呢从别求的，我真的让呢从小见吧，这多年是强着个的，现在我从小见吧，这强着个的是。你们他多话写的是普通我学嘛些就一那上面得看清楚，说呢有天他们上那说呢让他有天这。大家你们俩多话就是下人，他们这是我现有办的，他就有啥的话，我现有办的，有的真的，我咱这种我现在怕有些呢，真的，也不有嘛的是。我这一呢上面得看清楚，我上网提怕咱说那个的是的，说呢让他有天这，我这我现有些东西让他有天这么个的。我让的原天提什么这么多个的是，种这些呢不满足，我在这边些呢，他种这些不满足是。
And then, when meditating together with friends, do not engage in many endeavors. If you do, you will be distracted from profound virtuous activity. If distracted, you will miss out on the fortune of sacred dharma. So it is better not to spend too much time in a company, even of Dharma friends, because then it's very possible that you will become distracted from the practice. And so then as a result, the virtuous activity becomes interrupted. Then when practicing the whispered lineages path of means, don't get involved in blessing or taming ghosts. If you do, your own mind stream will rise up as a ghost. If that happens, you will strive in the dharma of townsmen. So sometimes when we practice the oral lineage path of skillful means, it could happen that we engage in activities of wanting to tame, subdue a demon or a ghost and so on. And like some people say that, oh, there is this ghost who's causing harm, he needs to be subdued. And so it is best not to think about that, because if one does, then actually one's own mind will rise as the demon, as the ghost. And then as a result, one will not be able to practice. So then when that happens, you will strive in the dharma of a townsman. So it becomes more like an ordinary practice. And then when experience and realization are beginning to dawn, don't speak of your prowess or higher perceptions. If you do, you will corrupt the secret code language. If that happens, the past good qualities and signs will be obscured. So sometimes when experience and realization begin to arise, we develop some certain qualities like clairvoyant abilities or higher perceptions and so on. And we should not ever speak of them to others, because if we do, we are kind of letting kind of like speaking out loudly, that divulging a secret that must not be divulged. So we corrupt the secret code language. And then if we do that, then the good qualities and like indications that have arisen along the path will become obscured. So when you see these faults, abandon them.
tene tezon lo dekyu chamzie sawa tang yibo ro tom korba mo son du ma ji je nyamjung chona rang go sit ta dor du yin na so so nyamjung chi ni nyamna chi gore sa song hwa sa re.
And then it ends with eating the food of deceit, negative conduct, taking offerings intended for the deceased, striving in pleasing others, engage in none of these, act with humility and be self-sufficient. So in brief, we should practice as humble practitioners.
Xie zong be ge rang go dong lo te che dar chi sia ji tu zong wa xue xu bin len go an da rang go kan de long go sia kong zo xue du tene ji xu hang go de lang do.
And so then they asked, so then how can one practice to be self-sufficient in this way? And then in response, Milarepa sang this song.
Oje lama ga di surwa de dang nyam na de bar chin je lo chi chu za chi rang saru chu hyone zo le ge de yu ju chong chen na hu gar ba ma chi la chu nian lang lo pa ma song na tang chi so yang yang za be gong zhuo chi chen lam jian jian nam to ji ji ba me pian guang dong chi rang guan dong be me nga zi be yi jian wa de nyong me ne zhe chu zi pa ta do du na da ji su me le ke chen rang su garwa machi ne la chu nya ya ko ka bra res lam lo pa ma song ne ji chu ma la re pan tri res wo tene so yang yang za nge me ji ba nge me so za de le ne tene gom nyam ne zu chi ya ra res wo ten lu tene chen ha ze nyam to na wo de ji res wo se ji de le se ji bu pen ge ma de jun chi me ba ta nyam na dong chi go de dan chi lun de lu chi go de se nge ye gen yin wo ta se zong lo.
So then Milarepa sang this song. So in brief, he said, so and don't extinguish your good fortune. Listen to the genuine Dharma. You have not gone down the wrong path, for you have met me. Gathering the accumulations again and again, practice meditation. The mist of blessings will arise to experience and realization. So when the blessings will lead to experience and realization. However, then even if that arises, that alone is not enough. So it's not enough to develop some experience or realization through the blessings that one receives. But the point is that one actually also must then continue to engage in an ongoing practice. So how to do that? He said, listen carefully.
lo na to ko la rang go thong so ta ve ne chu se nyam ne chi vi ne kha la ta te du chong yu khme de mo chira da ya sa ma ba ta da ina nga zo ka ba de so ze da ya du de ta nyam ne di sin ta ha ko pa na kharo na se da chak sa ma te ko te mo ze da kho no gro ma de na te du te chi na de kho ma de se te chen na ta yang sem du ki so te du ki yin do nyam ne fa chi chin du re 我这人的这些印度人，老南头口了，然后同是吧？这老头从南从高的，第三路他怕马考吧，今天从然后东过来是。
So and then he continues, when keeping to isolated mountain retreats, don't reminisce about the entertainment of the city. If you do, you will be distracted by the demons of your own mind. Keep the mind turned inward and be self-sufficient. So, so when we practice in an isolated place, then we should not fall kind of sway to various entertainments and distractions. So, for example, nowadays, what we often do when we practice is we look at our phones because they are kind of always there. So we practice a little bit, and then the thought arises, but I should really check that on my phone, shouldn't I?
好的，那就想多的呢。
Again, use all of our mindfulness and meditation, because if you do that, then the practice of your own mind. Keep mind inward and be self-sufficient. So instead of all kinds of distractions, keep the mind turned inward.
哦，真的，他这里这张多，我们女人的是东西是那么前面先把从可别年没前把起，现在进入马这样呢，都相继了，让过通，是吧？真的，他我们女人气运，那么年气运也考拉是，那么前面怎么当过的是那么前面，可对些地方说还会还有嘛吧？可对些的是实在给老头过嘛，让俺说，我这那么前面怎么过的是，可别年没前过的是，我这些啥呢？他俺在上届的 top 上这个在马里，可别哪接用过的。 我可能难得在roba rek他们那说这样个的，我听对了在马车里，我听你们头穿过的，现在记录马这样玩，都相继了，让我同事，我这现在进度怎么当就嘛
？Drupon, kontak ngata Java na chasing. Sorry, my internet interrupted. Ini namchi.
要不没录，现在现在在那边的。
Midwa. Kontak ngata chasing. Tini ta ngata namchi na tisu na hako maresti partu kosong.
남치 참이 세바타 가서 가듯이 하고요 말바세 나한테 뭐 참모제 유링보 도도야 잠도 당겨라 와 잠도 마당 와지 남치 참이 잠 그래서 그러베 와 시사도 당 그러베 님이 참 그래서 그러바데 마리아나 시사도 양제 소 대보 기본로야 그리고 잠나 센트릭 마든 그러바래 토명 다마다 제거리 대지에 손도 되데 동안 한번 용 그러봐 어떻게 님이 참 그래서 现在记录嘛的，现在记录嘛的，是我这他娘们俩去的，现在这些咱们就嘛是你如果我们家的，可是呢，我做他娘们俩在其中的，都是差不多楼那哈长老的过去多，长老在长老的现在哈都是可是长老在过去多，我这里几个咱们当这个嘛的是，中国的多呢，看了三个，他这样在说说这些的这个的，这几个咱们当这个嘛的是。 어때네 독생지 this 독생은 소바곰 this is 강연티나 소바곰네 그런 거 그래 쓰라.
So then when penetrating the key point with perseverance and meditation, contemplate the uncertainty of the time of death. So we have to think about the uncertainty of the timing of death. Nobody can tell, nobody knows exactly when anyone is going to die. And all people think that they will live for a long time. Nobody thinks about that they might be dying soon. So we shouldn't think in this way, but rather bring to mind the uncertainty of death. And then also, and remember the faults of samsara. We must also remember the suffering of samsara. So we shouldn't think that when we die, we will just go on happily and everything will be well, because after death, we may encounter many hardships and hindrances and then experience intense suffering. So therefore, remember the faults of samsara without mulling over the pleasures of this life. Cultivate endurance in hardship and be self-sufficient. Without thinking too much about the pleasures of this life, we should continue our meditation. So during our meditation, we shouldn't think about the various ordinary things. Like, for example, if it's a little bit hot, then we immediately want an air conditioner. If it's a little bit cold, then we need a heater. Or if we're a little bit hungry, then we think about eating a little bit. So when we're in meditation, we shouldn't think about pursuing any kind of ordinary pleasure, but should cultivate endurance in hardship. So that means a patient endurance in the face of hardships.
我真的在什么工具学读书是多年前都没记记，现在从别求求人是人那么些东西用，你们中学了让我同时我他什么工具是光具在做学读哦，他录用学我去上，这里学我这一切都要嘛的是，我是你们俩刚加过去做，你们俩刚加的，这里录用去在人们的忙不在去那，上他从别求求从小这样，这里在掐这个的是，这今天从小那的话没些做那个的是，我这里。说娘穷穷钱的是娘俩钱的，这个让我多过来是。
And then when receiving instructions on profound meditation, don't have great desire for conceptual knowledge. So sometimes when we receive teachings and instructions, we're learning something, and so then we think that, oh, I'm gaining all this knowledge, I'm learning all these things. But we also need to actually apply this conceptual knowledge in a practical way. So don't have great desire for conceptual knowledge, because if you do, then you will strive in worldly conduct. So then we just follow ordinary ways. And if that happens, this human life will be empty and wasted. And therefore act with humility and be self-sufficient. So if we just spend our Dharma practice really striving in worldly conduct, then we are just wasting away this human life. So one should practice with great humility and be very, very humble in your practice.
我这年头牛阶段是牛阶段是个原路上是嘛姐姐就那嘛同看着，因为没被光片让过同时，我在年头的阶段在这从嘛的修订这个嘛的是的。这今天嘛的看着冲着的是，我这英文没得这光的让我懂过来种的吧。
Then when bits of experience and realization arise, don't regard yourself highly with compulsion to speak of them. So when a slight experience or some kind of special realization arises, and we should not speak of these experiences. Like just carelessly telling other people about it, because that will infuriate the dakinis. So if you speak of them, it will upset the mamos and dakinis. So meditate without distraction and be self-sufficient.
我真的老妈娘们都对说商业教育嘛，他这大呢教育碰过就常常起来让我同事，我在老妈娘们都对在教嘛不在大起嘛不起呢，要不有嘛最近教碰过同事个，最近呢是安排他有嘛的是的，常常进的让我懂过来说。
And then when spending time around the guru, don't examine his good qualities or faults. So when we go together with the guru, it's better not to analyze him too much and be very critical of his actions, because if you do that, then if you do so, you will just see a heap of faults. Have pure vision and be self-sufficient.
真的切着往这 chế độ chế độ thằng hoàng đi thu du su chen go thằng khắc gen ma độ chế độ này chắc thằng tham xây trụ thu bộ chỉ cái rong của thông số thế nên rong chế độ su nhắm thôi đi chế做哇这我也来这样种，样子说说给钱了，不要都做不起样种。我甚至去干嘛的？甚至去呢？这恰当嘛，我是这样个的，是这他们这出个的，甚至去呢？我这这里推不进，让我弄过的是。
And then, when in harmony with Dharma friends and in the Abhisheka rows, don't wish for seniority or the head of that row. If you do, attachment and anger will upset your samaya. Remain harmonious and be self-sufficient. So when we sit together in the assembly with our Dharma companions, and we are concerned with where the seating arrangement of where we are sitting in the row during an empowerment, for example. And then if we express that, then that leads to attachment, anger, and ignorance, and that will upset our samaya. So therefore, it is best to remain harmonious.
我在成语们其实是就做进门过马考写过那让你研究东连长波去写让过通中多他妈落上的这咋下上。
And then when begging for alms in the midst of the town, don't deceive others with false dharma. If you do, you will fall to the lower realms yourself. Act honestly and be self-sufficient.
我真的在身上是，就当我们用的是提来的落呢，推出的是过上呢，也是的，这些的是想的也是的，想可以那么多下，应该推动的是提来的，是他的是别讲的，就当忙不多的是过啥的他，这期真的，这期真的，他我当初的是我们家的意思。
So then we stopped the teachings here for today. And so we went a little bit slower today because some people requested that we just go a little bit slower and know more in more depth about the verses. So that's what I tried doing today. But also it's quite a long text, so that way will also take a little bit longer. But anyways, now we're going to meditate for a little bit.
真的当我当初我们这边的叔看的这些年的我们也没快忘了，他我们这边呢，年前的现在的我们兄弟，我们看的我们兄弟，昨晚呢我说全把满音乐去过的修音吧，我这期真的你们的这样意思。
So now when we meditate as before, if you have a support, like an object of your focus for shamatha practice, you can use that. So you can practice shamatha with a support, or if not, without a support is fine. But most importantly is that you remain free from distraction in order to practice meditation.
Dariki. Don't you think some on this? Yeah.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, illuminating, Lamas, divine assembly of leaders, assembly of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogi, Yoginis, and Dakinis, traveling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the avoided persons, the 4 causes of samsara, or reverse the Milarepa, or Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructions who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience helpless, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with confused thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of mind as such, and the pervading clarity of Dhamma. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death, or in the Baba room.
Oh, then some of the chit and the Jima. Jivons. What I don't know to say.
Thank you, everybody, and see you next time. And so we are done for today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baila. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.